Hi everyone, welcome back. Let's go ahead and finish creating this project, which is the second card that is shown in the September and October catalog, which uses the October stamp of the month with all my love. So this is what my version looked like, which is pretty similar to exactly as it's shown in the catalog. So to begin, I've got all of my cardstock pieces ready to go and cut, and I do have those dimensions over there on the side of my paper, and they are also listed on my blog if you want to visit my blog to see. And so essentially they're just going to kind of come together like this, but we do need to add some random stamping to that piece of flamingo cardstock first. So random stamping is a really fun way to make your own pattern background out of a stamp set. And I'm going to use my smoothie ink, which is not the same color as this piece of flamingo cardstock, but it's just a little bit darker, and so I think it works out fine. And one of the tricks to random stamping is making sure that you turn your stamp in different directions as you're stamping it so that it really does look random. And after I usually go through and do some of those bigger stamped areas, then if I have any little pieces on the side or little corners that are missing an image, then I kind of come in with maybe like a little part of my stamp, like the leaf or a little bit of the flower poking in. And then that way it really does look like a piece of pattern paper that we created ourselves. And so that's a really fun technique to do. And so now I've got this particular piece of cardstock random stamped, and I am ready to stamp my other sentiment, and then we can assemble the card. Now, I used my thin cut scalloped circle to do this, but I think it might be a little bit different from what they show in the catalog. I think that they used a thin cut from a different stamp set, but it's still very, very similar where it's a scalloped circle essentially. Mine just has holes going around the side of it, but no big deal. And then there are lots of different sentiments that are part of the stamp set, so you could really make this work for just about any sort of occasion that you might need a card for. But I'm going to recreate it as shown, which was using that Missing You stamp set. And I think I'm going to send this card to my grandma. She's 99, and I've only been able to see her once since the whole quarantine thing happened. So I think that this would be a nice card to send to her. Now, I did color my flower, my stamped image here, using that same technique that I showed in the first video, which is just where you squeeze a little bit of the ink from the ink pad onto the lid, and then you use a water brush to pick it up and kind of color around, okay? And then let's go ahead and assemble. Now, I need to put that gold thread wrapped around the front of the card, but I don't want it to show on the inside. So what I did is I actually took a scrap piece of paper and cut it to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is the size of our card front. And then I just glued all of my pieces down on that scrap piece of paper. So I'm creating a false front, if that makes sense. And then that way I can take this gold thread, this embellishing thread, and wrap it around. And then when I put all of this down on the front of my actual card, you're not going to see that thread behind, like it won't go on the inside of the card. And so that's just a little thing that you could do to, if you ever had to, like, I don't know, stitch on a card or put a brad in or something like that, and you don't want it to show through to the inside of your card. I usually just make like a little scrap piece of paper, false front, and do it that way. And then we're going to fussy cut out our flower so that we can add that to the front of the card with that scallop circle. And for fussy cutting, I mean, I do love my thin cuts, but sometimes you do have to fussy cut. This one didn't take too terribly long, and so I could see using these flowers in a lot of different projects because they were really fun to create. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to adhere my flower to my scallop circle just a little bit around the edges that touch before I put my foam tape on the back, because I noticed the first time I made this card that I was getting my foam tape in the wrong spot, and then it was like popping it up on the scallop circle and not behind where I needed it to be popped up, if that makes sense. So I just kind of put a little bit of adhesive on there so I could see exactly what I wanted to have, where I wanted the foam tape to be on the back of it all. And then just a little bit of foam tape, and we're really practically done. We just have to do this, and then the 2 little hearts that I stamped over to the side. And this card came together so quickly and so easily. And like I said, that random stamping technique is just a really fun way to use some of those different images on a stamp set and create your own pattern papers or backgrounds, whether it be on a card or in a scrapbooking layout. Okay, our last step is going to be those little hearts. Now, I'm not sure On the catalog, to me, they looked like they were three-dimensional hearts, and I'm not sure exactly which ones they were. So I just found a little heart stamp. It's actually from the Funny Farm stamp set, but I'm sure you have a little heart somewhere in your collection. And I just stamped them, and I think it looks just as well. Or looks just as good, sorry. And then, like I said, I've got my false card front, which now I can put onto the card base, and now you can't see that gold thread around on the inside. And my card is finished. So that's it. Like I said, both of these cards were pretty easy to do. The first card that is shown in the catalog, and this one, the second card that's shown. I hope you enjoyed watching, and if you are using the October Stamp of the Month to create your own projects, I would love to see what you have made. Or if you wanted to recreate these yourself, then like I said, you can visit my blog where I have listed all of those dimensions if you weren't able to catch them there on the side of my paper. Thanks for watching, and happy crafting.